Now, Alex, Melia, you play golf.
I do indeed, yes. Love the game of golf. I've been a professional since I was 18 years of age when I left school in 1985. My career was pretty long, well travelled. I worked in Dunleary Golf Club as the assistant pro for 2.5 years. Then I went to Royal Dublin as the senior assistant for a further 18 months. Then I went to Austria, where I worked there for 1.5 years for the Austrian government setting up their academies. And then I came home for a break and I worked with Johnny Young in Selbridge for a short time during the winter period. And it was at that point that I was offered the job as the senior professional at Westport Golf Club. That was back in 1990.
And you weren't the first one there?
No, Westport Golf Club being a big championship course, it was actually a huge reputation and it was an enviable job, one that people wanted, but its history with professional golfers has been pretty good. Austin and Paddy Scared have a great history with the club. Then you had Gus Murphy, who would have been a well-renowned teacher. He was attached to the club off and on for a number of years, but their first full-time appointment was Keith Mongan. He was the pro for 3 years before I was appointed the pro, when Keith himself moved on to Mount Juliet.
He came in 1989, I think.
That would be right, yeah. So
when he came, he was sponsored by McGregor.
He was a member of what they called the staff professional stable of McGregor Golf, which at the time would have been one of the top 3 biggest companies in the golf fraternity in the world. They were a major player. So he would have liked to, for Keith to be a member of that, obviously speaks for itself, and for McGregor Golf to have an interest in Westport speaks volumes of the pedigree of the golf course itself and the golf club.
They had an association with Jack Nicklaus.
At the time it would have been owned by Jack Nicklaus, but Jack Nicklaus would have been the man who made McGregor really the biggest name in golf at that time in the 80s. He owned about 90% of it. Subsequently he's moved on to other things, but the company itself was then owned by Greg Norman, so it's gone from one great golfer to another, really.
At that time, McGregor supplied the pro and was subsidised by the golf club. And
it was a unique situation.
And the golf club created a pro shop for him at the time.
That's right.
I was involved in that. I remember that.
You'd have been heavily involved in that one.
And what do you do in the golf, as a golf pro? What do you do?
It does vary, but predominantly what you do is you take the shop and you provide golf services to the members. So you provide golf clubs, golf lessons, golf equipment. You cater for their requirements in that regard from a retail point of view. Then you advise the club in relation to all aspects of golf course management, maintenance. Like the qualification to be a PGA golf professional now is pretty extensive. So fundamentally, you have professional golfers who play golf for a living, and then you've got golf professionals who, on an advisory sort of scale of things, are there for a club to help them develop and to maximise their image and the best return for what they have.
When do you decide which track you want to take?
Pretty much, to be honest, that's a question that I've often asked myself, and a lot of people have asked. For me, it was made very early on. I was lucky enough to play golf with some incredible players: Philip Walton, David Barton, Christy O'Connor Sr. I was in the company of very famous international players, like I've met Nick Faldo, up close and personal, Greg Norman, Fred Couples. Having watched these guys and what they did, I remember standing on the practice ground once at an Irish Championship, and I watched the guys to the left of me and to the right of me hit the ball. And whilst I was a good player and I had the ability, the one thing I knew straight away was I didn't have the discipline to practice to the extent that these guys could. And to be honest, I'd have to say there was probably a little bit in the back of my mind that even if I practiced, I probably still wasn't going to be as good as those guys. So at that point I went back to school, I got my PGA exams, and I decided to follow a more secure track.
Do you still play?
I do. I play as much as I can. Obviously, I've moved on now from the golf club. I've had 24 great years in Westport Golf.
You were 24 years there, yeah?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, that's
from
that's
what year to what year? Can you remember?
I came in 1990, and I finished in the 1st of August 2012.
So you had a good run.
I had a great run. And
Do you
I
enjoy it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Made a lot of friends. I came here single, although I did bring my fiancée. We got married in Westport. We have 3 wonderful children. We have a lovely home. We have great friends. So it's been a good part of my life. Yeah.
What do you think of Westport Golf Course?
Ooh, it is a beautiful golf course. It's got some incredible scenery. It's got 4 or 5 really challenging holes. But I think the real secret to Westport Golf Club's success is the fact that whilst it's a big monster, and it is, and it can be made as tough as you want, in general it's kept pretty user friendly because it's a tourist town, it's a tourist destination. I think a lot of people enjoy the ability to go out and play golf from all standards, be challenged. But I think the majority of club golfers hate losing golf balls, and whilst Westport can be toughened up very quickly for big tournaments, which they've had more than their fair share of, including the Irish Championship, which the professionals found quite difficult. In general, it's kept to a standard where it's user friendly and the people come away with an enjoyment factor.
What are the feature holes on Westport Golf Club?
For me, people talk about the 12th, which is a great par 3, but I personally think my favourite 2 holes would be 14 and 15. I think 14 with the backdrop of the reek behind the green. A very tricky little par 3, very intricate, and if you get on the green it only starts then because it's a very harsh green if you're in the wrong place. And then followed by the 15th, which when the tide is in and you have to drive over the Atlantic because the water comes right in front of the tee box, and when you look out there you definitely know you're on something special and unique.
You put many captains to your hand.
Yeah,
one for every year.
One for every year, and I think I just got there at the end of one and the start of another, so I actually got one more than the number of years I was there. So I think I've seen 25 captains through.
Can you name any of them?
I could. Jack Braden was, for me, well, I'd have to say that Jack Braden was probably the best captain because he was the one that appointed me. And then he was followed by Vincent Farrell, then there was Terry Sheridan, Michael John McDonald. Now it starts to get a little bit hazy, but I could name quite a few more.
Name all you can.
Sean Walsh, Liam Walsh, Tony McCabe, John Collins, Willie Elliott, Christy O'Malley, Niall Halpin, Pat Cairns. It's getting a bit hazy now.
I get hazy.
There's a few in there that should be there that probably I'm forgetting. But there was one guy I should mention, Val Murray. Val and myself. Yeah, we did a great sort of rapport with each other, and he was always a real fun guy. He was probably closer to my age than most of them, but probably getting into trouble for saying that now.
What are the big events that happened in your duration there?
Several close championships. The Irish Close was held there several times. Rory McIlroy winning his first Irish Close. He was 15 when he came to the golf course and he was 16 when he left it. Over the 3 or 4 days he was here, but he did annihilate all around him. He played exceptional golf, and then he was subsequently back for another tournament which he was exceptional in again. And to see that talent develop and grow. Then I suppose the big one for me would have been the Irish Championship, the Irish PGA, which took an awful lot of negotiation in the background and an awful lot of work to get. And we were kind of... It was disappointing that it finished the way it did because the weather actually won that particular year, but I still think, and I know my peers, the professionals who came to Westport not only enjoyed the town, but they still talk about the golf course and the whole experience of Westport, which I think one goes in hands with the other anyway. So that for me was a big one.
There's difficult dealing with committees and captains and presidents and.
I would.
It has its moment, is it?
Yeah. If you work on a one-to-one, it's always easy because you don't have too many different ideas. If you put 10 people in a room, you have 10 opinions, And I found over the years that to deal with a committee is actually quite difficult. Also, I'd have to be honest and say that in a lot of environments, clubs particularly, all clubs, now not just golf clubs, I think when you get to committees, there's certain people who are very, very capable of leaving any personal baggage outside the door when they come in, and they have a job to do or they have something. But there's always the occasion in a club run sort of scenario where I think individuals have preconceived ideas and personalities, so there can be clashes and it can be tough. It's certainly something, having done it and not regretting what I've done, it's something I wouldn't be doing again, and I certainly wouldn't be encouraging my children to be doing.
Would you have any input into the maintenance of the course?
At times, again, depending on the committee and who was the chairman of grounds, some personalities were stronger than others. Some people were very knowledgeable. Some people they had their own advisors. So you were always there if you were required. And on quite a few occasions over the years, I would have had some input. But in general, it's a bit of a mix and match.
Who were the groundsmen in your time?
Pretty much, there wasn't much of a change there either. Like Westport has a longevity for its staff. John Garvin was the greenkeeper when I came there, and he retired the year before I finished.
And he had been there a long time, Bill.
He was.
Many years was he there?
John was upwards of 40 years there nearly, I believe.
Done a good job?
Yeah.
Done a good job,
John. Well, the one thing in golf clubs, or any club, I think, if you don't do a good job, you won't survive that environment. To survive a long time in a club environment, especially where it's amateurs and professional people, I think you need to be good at what you do in order to get past the 10-year mark. But there was Pat Fadgen, then there was Tony Joyce. Tony retired very early on, sort of halfway through my tenure there.
He was a good golfer.
Yeah, Tony was a very talented golfer. Still plays golf now. I don't know what his handicap is now, but he was definitely junior cup stuff for a number of years.
Well, was he down way down single figures?
He was, yeah. I think Tony played to about
2, 3.
Could have been 3 or 4, and he hovered in around that anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know for sure.
Who were the best golfers you ever saw down there?
The best golfers down there. And there was quite a few of them. Donny O'Connor comes to mind straight away.
And he was a late starter.
He was a very late starter, but he was very proficient, very solid.
Yeah, being a hurler, isn't he?
Yeah. Perry O'Reilly, it goes without saying, was an exceptionally talented golfer, and I think Perry's mental strength was always a huge asset to Perry. Like, you just couldn't break him down.
You see, he was a great teacher himself.
Yeah, he had great patience, and his passion for the game was still is, like, when he talks about golf, he just lights up. Then you've got Liam Halpin, Liam was a very, very solid and always will be a solid golfer. Liam will never go too much above 5. He'll always hover back down to 2 or 3, possibly get to 1. I know he played off scratch for a while, but that takes huge dedication and huge time. And when you have a young family or if you have other interests, it's hard to do that. Other golfers that I've seen, Gar for his age has been a tremendous solid golfer.
That's Gar Golden.
That's Gar Golden, yeah. Aidan Moran, who for me, I'd always take a pride in Aidan. Young Aidan was a kid when I got here. He's now a PGA professional. There's a lot of young new talent coming on. Guys that were in the club that moved on. Declan O'Loughlin is a guy I remember, played off 2.
There were some golf scholarships to the US out of Westport, were there?
Noel Kavanagh got a golf scholarship, and Noel was an exceptionally talented young man. Cathal O'Malley also was an exceptionally talented young man. Noel's moved on now to business,
family
with
business,
with his degree, and he's doing it very successfully. Young Cahill's gone back to the States where he's pursuing his tour card. So in his endeavour in that, we'd wish him well, but he's got a tough road, but he certainly has the talent to get there.